Good morning, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the study session of the Mesa City Council for the morning of October the 14th. Our council is very much present. I see Vice Mayor is zooming in from the other side of the world. Jen, what time is it where you are?
It is 5:30 in the evening.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. Day's just getting started.
Spending my evening with you.
All right. And welcome, good to have you with us. And Mr. Freeman is traveling out of the country as well, so he's excused. The remainder of our council is present. The first item on our agenda is to review the agenda for Monday's meeting. Mr. Luna?
Mayor, I had questions on 4I, J, and K.
All right. Let's
That's
get them answered.
The new pumper trucks.
Oh,
Mesa
yes.
Fire.
Did you get the text?
I got the text that Mr. Freeman is with us vicariously and has a paragraph that he'd like to read, and so we'll make sure that that happens.
Okay. What would you like the presentation on the pumpers and what we're doing with those first, or you have specific questions, or?
No, I just, maybe talk a little bit about them.
Okay.
It's something exciting for the city of Mesa, and if you could just, elaborate a little bit more.
Council, James Johnson, Assistant Chief with Mesa Fire, and part of my assignment is over maintenance, and I'm fortunate here to work with Jason Nicholson, our fire maintenance administrator, so he has all the answers for all the technical stuff. So he's here today, so thank you for having us, and thank you to Mr. Brady and Mr. Pombier and City Management and all of you for supporting our electric fire truck coming up. We had a RFP process where we had 3 possible trucks options, and one was not able to make the production of the unit. So this is a brand new concept, obviously, in the fire industry. So anyways, we did come up with the E1. And before we get to the truck, just kind of wanted to show that, this supports the city climate action plan. Thank you. For carbon neutrality by 2050 to promote public health. So obviously the electric instead of diesel fuel, low to no emissions and lessens noise pollution. So those are kind of some of the things that this is going to provide for the safety of the community and stuff, and to support the action. And now we'll let Jason talk about the truck.
All right, this unit has been in the works with D1 since 2017. They actually have a European model that's currently running since 2020 overseas in Europe. This unit's able to be fully spec'd out to match our current trucks. And so we would not lose anything in terms of storage capacity or anything like that. It comes with long life batteries. It's got a pretty impressive range on the unit. It is able to pump a house fire with 4 house lines for 4 hours at 750 GPM, which is more than enough water that we currently flow in our fires. It has a range of approximately 142 miles if it was just to drive in a straight line. There's lots of things that come into play with that, with grades and winds and all that kind of stuff. And we're actually really excited to be working with E1 to put City of Mesa on the map with a pretty neat unit.
So, Mayor and Council, maybe we should mention specifically that this new pumper is scheduled to go to New Fire Station 221 outside of Eastmark. And as such, we've, in the construction, right, of 221, we've accommodated the electric charging for this specific truck in there. Now, of course, as the city manager, I need to say this is a wonderful idea. However, you'll notice the next item is 2 regular pumpers. And so this is not quite twice as much as a regular pumper. I think it's a great opportunity, prototype, to experiment with it. We're very much hoping that the prices will come down over time, because obviously we have a great need to provide for new pumpers as we expand the fire services, which we're very excited about opening up a new station here, and then eventually we'll be opening up another station, the second station that was in the 2018 bonds up at Brown and Power. But trying to keep up with keeping up with growth, sorry, of adding pumpers as well as replacing pumpers is very expensive. So we're hoping, we love the concept of the greener pumpers, but we need to be careful and watch, hopefully the prices come down closer to what we're currently paying, so.
Mr. Thompson?
Well, and Chris, I think that's my concern here because, you know, a fully fitted e-pumper is like 1.9 million, whereas a regular diesel pumper, I guess, is like 1.2. And so there's a $700,000 gap in between there, you know, that our citizens are paying for. And we need to be cognizant of the costs that we're shifting into newer technology. So I do have some concerns on that end.
I just think, and we all do it, but I think that's why we're buying one and get comfortable using it. And I think as the demand grows across the country, we're hoping, right, that will help production to bring the cost down in the new technology. But we did feel like it was important to have this in our fleet and get to know it and see how it works. And I think it's a great location to have that, so.
And do we have also of idea what to do with the batteries after their life cycle? How do we dispose of those?
They do claim that those are recyclable batteries, and yes, we will have to replace them, and that's part of the electric vehicle concept issues. But they do say that they are recyclable.
How long do the batteries last? I know you said they're long life batteries, but how long is long life?
Yes, sir. So they're 8 to 10 years is what they're projected. Also with this, you know, obviously we'll be tracking maintenance costs and stuff like that with our current fleet and with the EV fleet. Yeah. They do project that the batteries on these things can get 2,000 life cycles from 100 to 0, which we would never ever really hit that many life cycles on there. And like I did say, they are partnered with Nissan Leaf. So these batteries have been tested, and there's over 500,000 of those batteries currently in the world being used.
And we have the equipment to put them out if they do catch on fire?
We'll have to work on that, sir.
Because I know the lithium batteries that were out there that APS uses has been an issue in the past. When those things go off, it's hard to put them out. So
Correct.
If our fire truck catches on fire with the batteries, can we put them out?
Yes, sir. And just a little piece off of that, with that technology that they're currently using in this E1 product, just like the Nissan Leaf, if the fire truck was in an accident and like airbags are being deployed, that automatically shuts the EV system off to hopefully avoid fire or any type of rupturing.
All right, yeah, as long as we can track maintenance and show to the,
Sure.
to
That's
the
why we wanted to
citizens
give
that it's a good project.
Thank you, Mayor. Are you going to be doing a study in terms of the savings on diesel? Because we won't be using diesel, so that's, you know, an automatic savings that we're going to get.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
you'll
sir.
do a study, maybe come back or just let us know, hey, we saved this much in diesel fuel and.
I could give you a little bit on that. I did track one unit currently from J1 to the current date. And at today's fueling for that unit right now, we are over $11,000 in fuel costs on just that particular unit alone right now.
Great. Okay, I'm good.
Great. Other questions on this? Yes. Ms. Pillsbury?
I just was wondering if police, well, not on this, sorry. What was my next question? I think I'm good with this. Sorry, I just noticed you were still sitting there. I'm good.
Yes.
Question.
Frankie.
I know one, a couple months ago came and we toured. Is this a similar vehicle, or is this some other company that we went with?
Yes, sir. No, sir, it is not a similar vehicle. The one that we all participated in a few months ago was a European design fire truck. That particular company has no plans to make a North American style fire truck.
Okay. So this is another company that also does electric vehicles. Okay.
Yes, sir. Just like Chief Johnson hit earlier, there are currently 3 manufacturers out there that are in the market for electric fire trucks.
And how many municipalities have electric vehicle, fire trucks in the U.S.?
Currently, there is none. Los Angeles County has purchased one of the European fire trucks that they're slated to receive at some time this year.
So we will be the second municipality if we get this.
Absolutely, sir.
Madam Vice Mayor, do you want to weigh in on this?
I don't have any questions. I think they've all been presented, but I'm very excited to see this truck in our fleet, to have the experience and how we can transition to the cleaner fuel to be part of our climate action plan, as was mentioned. So, and I love that we're the first in the nation being able to do this. I think it speaks well for the innovation that we have in our fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. As you might expect, Mr. Freeman wants to be heard on this issue. And so I think several of us have received a text from him this morning just expressing his enthusiasm for this. And I don't mean to make light of that. We all like to tease Mark about being a firefighter, but it's very understandable in this situation that he'd want to be heard. So I'll read a short text I received from him this morning. It says, the agenda item regarding electric fire trucks, I want you to know I fully endorse this move. Putting these types of fire apparatus into our city will be a great turning point. Some historical context, Mesa was the first to provide paramedic service to our citizens in the late 1970s. Although we no longer have the team, we were the first to provide rescue scuba diving for recovery in regional operations. Mesa was the first city to establish a hazardous materials team as well as an immunization team. We've been leaders in technology with paramedic and medical response for some time, and I'm glad we're continuing to do so. I want to thank city management and all those involved, including fire administration, for looking to the future and helping the city reach its sustainable goals. This is a step towards reducing our carbon footprint. I'm excited that Mesa will continue to be a leader in the state and nation. I want to echo that sentiment as well. I'm a big fan of electric vehicles. It's a better technology. This is the future. I know that we will see that, I'm just wondering what the engineers are going to do with all their spare time now, because the maintenance is very, very different and for the most part not necessary. And the fuel costs obviously aren't there. So clearly Mesa is not going to be the first for very long, and this is the wave of the future. But to the point of cost, and certainly costs are going to come down. But I think it is good that we have a very stark comparison here of what these vehicles cost. We're spending $1.4 million on this vehicle. We're spending $1.5 on two of the older style vehicles. And then the next agenda item is we're using the same amount of money to buy 5 of the smaller vehicles, which I think we all realize is probably really the future, to not drive a tanker truck when someone's cat's in the tree or feeling some heart palpitations. So I think ultimately where we want to be is buying the smaller vehicles, but them being electric. So I'm just, can you speak to that? I mean, ultimately what we want our model to be. Do we want to have something more similar to something that looks like an ambulance, but is also electric, so that it's responding? To me, that seems like a better model ultimately.
Absolutely, sir. It's our main objective to try to at least hit that 50% goal by 2030 and 100% by 2050. Currently, we use Ford chassis on our Ambos. We are pretty aware that they are in the F-150 class. They are going fully electric this year. We're looking forward to the 3/4 tons and up, the F-250s, all the way up to the F-450s, to follow suit with that. And absolutely, sir, that will be the first thing that we will look into as soon as those become available.
And they'll most likely become available sooner than the big pumpers. So
Absolutely.
starting at the lower scale, moving up probably makes more sense.
Great, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, thank you. Other comments on this?
Mayor, just quickly, because I heard you say 4K.
Yeah.
And so can I just, do you have a question specifically?
No, I had the same concern. I asked Mary about it. Why don't we buy electric vehicles for those?
Yeah, again,
Because they're not-
they become
they're not made
available.
right now, so
But
they're
also, look, I would like to make a point on 4K also. Because this is, I believe, our first acquisition of projects under the American Rescue Program. So, and there's kind of an urgency, one of the need for ambulances, and two, because there was an opportunity to get the ambulances in a package deal right now that we could get them delivered, which is kind of a challenge right now. So this is like the first project coming out of those ARPA funds that we've been talking about, the 105 million. Is that where I think we're at total? So this is part of that. And I just want to bring that to your attention because we've talked about the whole list of projects we're going to work on. This will be the first one from the council we're actually spending money on. And so these ambulances are important because as we treat individuals with COVID, when that unit comes back, it goes through a decontamination process. So it gets taken out of service. So our justification is having these additional units. We're not adding additional staff, but having the additional units to rotate into the fleet certainly helps us keep more ambulances available to respond. Is that pretty
Yes.
close? Okay. So that's, I just wanted to remind council of that, and that's why it falls under the ARPA, because it does meet the requirements for COVID.
And Mayor and Council, to echo what Mr. Brady is saying, there was the window for us to buy certain types of vehicles has shrunk dramatically. So if Pete was here with Fleet, he would tell you our buying window for police vehicles used to be about 8 months during the year. It's shrunk down to 1. So we have to make decisions much quicker. I put a lot of pressure on these two gentlemen to try to get to this purchase because if we missed this window, it was another 10 months probably before we could even order them, which means we would be way behind the curve. They made that happen very quickly. We were able to combine it with the ARPA funds, and so I just wanted to give them a lot of respect for how they handled this process because this short window to get through was not easy, and they jumped through that window to make sure that we could provide these vehicles and have them instead of waiting another year to a year and a half.
So I just want to bring that to your attention.
Question on this, is this just replacing some of the vehicles that you mentioned as far as when they go into, for instance, the COVID cleaning, or is this further upgrading for our transportation program that we are moving into with additional vehicles?
Well, from the grant's perspective, it is supplementing the fleet to address COVID. However, since we have the vehicles, we can use them for growing that program also eventually. But for now, because of the issue of the justification for the grant is real, that if we have a COVID transport, we have to take it out. And I don't know how long that is, but we have to take it out of service. So instead of having to take it out of service, we can just move that crew to one of these vehicles.
Another ambulance, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So it helps us respond to more.
Right, it maintains our level, our ability to respond, yeah.
Okay.
But eventually, they also just become part of the fleet, which allows us to expand the service eventually too.
Thank you. But just before we move on, I just want to say thank you to the staff for implementing the Climate Action Plan. When we adopted that plan a few months ago, we said this is not a one-size-fits-all. We're not going to dictate from city management to the departments, here's what you have to do to comply with the Climate Action Plan. It's going to come the other way around, where and I see a lot of department heads in our meeting today. We're looking forward to you coming back to City Council and telling us how in your sphere the Climate Action Plan can be implemented. And so this is a great example of that, and I just want to point that out, that's encouraging to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for the support.
You bet.
Thank you, sir.
Council, other questions on Monday's agenda? Ms. Pillsbury.
I had two. So one was just the 4 PD items. Were you going to talk about that?
Yes, sorry, remind me where.
So it's 4D, E, F, and G, and I just wanted some more details on those items.
Right. So maybe on the Glocks first, and then what's happening there. I want to remind the council, and we owe you a presentation, which I think is coming the end of this month, on an update on the public safety sales tax, where we're going to talk about even more about how much more we're adding to police and fire. And part of that is as we have them going through training, we need to provide them all the resources along, whether it's radios and equipment, and so this is.
So that's kind of, what?
So you mean they don't get wooden guns?
Right. That's kind of what I was wondering, if this was all new stuff,
Well, it's a little bit of all the
replacement, yeah.
above, so go ahead.
Is this on?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Sergeant Standers. I'm assigned out at the range. I run the range out there. This is Lieutenant Reynolds. He'll introduce himself. What was the question?
Just some more details on, I guess, are we on D for that one then?
Yeah, so the question on the Glocks,
So it says an initial purchase
what's
of
driving the need
optics,
for
so-
this? Is it replacement of existing? Is it existing and new? What's kind of, give us a sense of
So, yes. So I call it the life cycle replacement for Glocks. So it's approximately 900 new Glocks. Obviously, taking the old ones out of service, selling them back to the vendor, and then we'll get a credit, and then we'll get the new guns into service.
Is that our full inventory, or?
Yes, ma'am. It's our
Okay.
full inventory.
Okay, so,
And Councilor, if you'll notice also, I'll just make a point again, included in that summary is about outfitting all the new recruits with guns also.
Yes, sir.
that's the additional 50. Okay. Okay. I guess I just don't know all the words, right? So when it says initial purchase of optics with mounting plates, I don't know, if that was something you add to guns or replacing the whole gun, or?
I can give you some detail on that. So we're transitioning from iron sights to a red dot system. So historically speaking, humans have always looked at what they're working on and not at the tool, like a hammer. We're looking at the hammer. We never do that. We never look at the saw and saw that way. So with iron sights, we're actually looking at the sights instead of doing target identification. Anecdotally, what we've noticed in our training, and according to the chief's mandate, was to institute more training or quality training. I don't know if you want to call it that, but realistic training with regards to target identification. With the red dot, we're no longer focusing on the gun. We're actually looking at the person or the threat and being able to see the full picture, if you will, instead of focal planing. Like, I see you, now I'm back here, and now I'm back to you, and I can miss some detail that's very important. We've noticed in our training when we do target identification, all the academy students for the last two classes that I've had the privilege of running have not shot a no-shoot target. Our accuracy has gone from in the low 230s as an average to 243.5. 250 is the max. 240 to 250 is an expert rating. So we do see some efficacy in the red dot system on the guns.
So currently, they don't have the red dot technology.
Most of our in-service personnel do not, but the academy students, as they've
learning.
come through the academy, they do get them. Additionally, our laterals that come in from wherever, we put them through a lateral academy. We also put them on red dot.
Okay.
We also run a red dot transition course, an RDS course for in-service personnel. And right now we have approximately 150 to 200 personnel that are trained on the red dot system currently.
Wow. Okay, sounds like a good thing. I was just curious, so thank you.
No worries.
Is the same thing with the radios then? We're just getting more,
John, do you
or
want-
we're
who wants to take the rate?
replacing?
Yeah.
Yeah, from a radio standpoint, Mayor, Councilmember Sparesberry, we are upgrading our radios. These are predominantly replacements, but we're also going to be bringing, we're going to be adding additional radios to this because we also want to make sure we're outfitting our park rangers and our animal control people because they're often out alone. And the newer radios will eventually have GPS coordinates. And so when you are checking a bathroom at 10 o'clock at night as the park is closing, we want to be able to find you if there's any problems. So we are not only doing this within the police department, but we're looking at all of our people that we have out there, especially on an individual basis, to make sure that these radios are the newest technology and that we can use them to protect their safety.
So we'll use that term again. You'll hear it often in the budget, the life cycle. So some of these are just replacing the existing inventory. And then there are several of these that are here that are for additions. And I will let council know that this item will be modified a little bit up because we've identified, as John just mentioned, we want to make sure we're providing enough new ones for both the academy as well as we're adding the park rangers and the animal control officers. So this number, the number of radios will go up as well as the dollar amount because that was one of the strong feedbacks we got from park rangers and others about the need to be in communication. And as John said, we're very concerned about their safety when they're out there by themselves, that they have communication back, so.
Okay. And then on F, the safety and medical supplies. So that was a big increase. So what, just speak to that. What was the increase for? And the, it said largely due to resulting from, increase of supplies resulting from COVID. So just curious on that one too.
Mayor, Council, thank you. Pat Phelps with the Police Department. The reason for that is that during, what we found is because of COVID, the actual cost of the items themselves has increased exponentially.
Okay.
So for example, we've gone from paying approximately $5 a box for gloves to as much as $35 a box for gloves, depending on the source and the supply at the time. And due to the, the supply issues with this, we sometimes have to make whatever purchases available to us to be able to do it. There is an RFP that we're in the process of evaluating now that we anticipate awarding either the end of December or the beginning of January. But as we continue to get through the end of the year, just because of the cost of increase in those items from COVID, we need a capacity increase to get us over the next 3 months.
Okay, so not necessarily an increase in cases of COVID you're seeing or treating or anything, but just the cost of the supplies. Okay.
Yes,
That makes
yes, ma'am.
sense. Okay, great, thank you. That's it for police then, thank you. So my other, should I ask my other question? On 4L, I've just been noticing a lot on social media, oh no, is it 4L?
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, okay, 4L. People are really confused about recycling in our city. And when I was gonna jump on and try to clarify, I realized that I didn't even know exactly what we were doing right now. And so, trying to get me to stop talking.
No, it's not like that.
Oh, okay. New iPad.
That was your timer.
Oh, that was my timer. I'm done. Anyway, so I just was like thinking someone could look at this and be like, why are we purchasing more recycling containers if we're not even doing our full robust recycling program? And so I just wanted to maybe hear, I'm assuming we're just replacing recyclable containers that we, or when we're trying to keep people in the habit of recycling, even if not all the items are being recycled, so.
Yes. Good morning, Mayor, Council. Councilmember Spilsbury, these are not just recycle barrels also, so it's the black, green, and blue barrels
Okay,
that we
all
are
of them.
purchasing.
Okay.
Along those same lines, we have new residents that are moving in that they need barrels set when they have their home. And then we have life cycle with those barrels too, where we're replacing barrels that get broken. Sometimes they will even fall into the truck as they're being picked up, and so we need to replace those barrels. And so these are all replacement barrels. To answer the recycling question, we are still recycling. We do have contract with one local recycler still that we are bringing material to. Unfortunately, they don't have the capacity to handle all of the material that the City of Mesa collects, but we are continuing to have conversations. I've had multiple meetings this week trying to look at both short-term and long-term solutions for recycling to get more of our material to recycling centers. There is an issue right now where there just isn't the capacity in the East Valley to handle everybody's material, but we are continuing to try and work with public and private partners to find solutions for that. So, but there is still material that is being recycled that we pick up.
Okay, I've just seen a lot of people express frustration that they've seen all of the barrels getting dumped into the same place, and so why are they being charged if Mesa's, anyways, I think we could use some better communication on that.
And to communicate with that a little bit, in addition to that, we are having some staffing issues where the growth that we have seen in Mesa has required us, we just did a routing change. We had made council aware that we made routing changes, that we added more routes to deal with the growth that we have seen in Mesa. But we have been struggling a bit to get qualified operators hired and in positions and in trucks and trained. I was looking this morning, we have hired 21 new operators so far this year. I have 8 vacancies right now. We have names to those positions, but they're still in the process. They haven't started with the City of Mesa yet. They're either, going through background checks, drug tests, those sorts of things to get them on board. And then it's a pretty extensive training that we need to provide to them before they are actually able to be on a route by themselves. So that's been another one of our struggles, is making sure that we're able to pick up all of the material at the end of the day. And so we have had to combine some of those routes together just to be able to get those routes picked up. I do want to thank the operators and foremen that we have. You know, since the pandemic has kicked in, we've seen almost a 10% increase in the amount of material that we pick up on a monthly or annual basis.
Thank you, Amazon.
And it's one of the things when in the United States, when the economy is booming, solid waste numbers typically go up. We have a consumption society. This goes back to the cap and some of the things that we'll have discussions about. But when the economy is booming, typically that means we're picking up a lot more material. And so those operators, and even we've had foremen, I've had my deputy director even running crews throughout the year. So folks really have been stepping up to make sure that that material is picked up at the end of the day and those barrels are empty. But we're a little bit behind the curve in getting folks hired, on board, and trained. We do right now have all of those positions have names to them, but again, they have not started and they're not fully trained yet, so.
Sounds like they need some thank you donuts as well.
They definitely could use some thank yous.
I'll get on that. So you'd be fully staffed after these 8 positions are filled, then it's just a matter of training and then hopefully getting some contracts with more recyclers and.
That's what we're working
That's the
on,
goal.
yes.
Okay.
And so, and we'll be coming back hopefully with updates soon with maybe some short-term solutions, and then we continue to work with engineering and regional partners to look at long-term solutions. With those long-term solutions, it's just difficult because it's not something that happens overnight. It takes time to make those things happen, so.
Okay.
But we are continuing to work through that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Scott, you mentioned we are continuing some recycling. Where are we taking the recycling? I know Salt River was down for a long time. Are they back at full capacity or?
No.
Where are we taking the?
Yeah, so Mayor, Council, the one contract that we do have right now is with a group called United Fibers. They are a local recycler that is based in Chandler, and that's where we're bringing material to. Salt River, Republic Services still has not even broken ground on building a new facility out at the Salt River complex. So those are the options that we have right now. The option that we have right now is United Fibers. And they have limited capacity. It's a small MRF recycling facility that is there. So it's limited capacity that they have, but we're bringing as much as we can to them.
I appreciate you raising that question because I have heard similar questions from my neighbors saying that, man, it looks like the same truck is picking up my blue barrel and my green barrel. I thought we got over that. And so between the workforce issues and the contract issues, this is something we're continuing to. I know we're doing all we can, but and I know the plan is for you to come forward with resolving the question of what's our long-term sustainability plan for sustainability, right? So that we do we invest ourselves? Do we look for regional partners? So I think it's just important the public know that we are doing what we can and we're trying to figure out the long-term solution to this.
Yeah, and in addition to that, Mayor, even as we're looking at those long-term solutions, my staff's working hard trying to even see if we can find other short-term solutions to make sure that we're recycling as much of this material as we can.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Council, other questions regarding Monday's agenda?
I have a quick question on 4N on the gas SCADA system improvement project. Does that affect residents or is that more internally how, I know the report says that might be saving some funds based on maintenance maybe or because we manually maintain those currently, but the system allows to monitor maybe virtually or can you explain a little bit more, Frank?
Good morning, yes, sir. Frank McRae with the Energy Resource Department, Mayor and Council. These stations don't serve individual customers. They're more of a part of the network system. And so it's not an individual customer that's going to be benefited or impacted by these types of improvements. What these SCADA sites or converting these sites to SCADA allows us to do is to do more remote monitoring. So before we had certain locations where we had actual physical recording devices installed at these different facilities. And as pressures changed over time, we would go out, retrieve the data, download them into a laptop, and bring that back into the system. So this will obviate the need for that type of extraction of data, how that data is collected. It'll be more real time. It'll go back into our SCADA system, which has a archiving system, which allows us to keep tracks of the different type of pressures that we're monitoring and flow rates that we're monitoring at those gate stations and pressure regulating stations.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson, would you like us to hear more about 4M? It might be good to update the folks in that part of the city on the Signal Butte Williams Field Road, Germain Road project.
Good morning, Mayor, Council.
Morning.
I think I was here a couple of weeks ago telling you we had a lot going on in Southeast Mesa, and we certainly do. This is the Signal Butte Road extension. If you drive out there today, I was out yesterday looking at our water line construction. There isn't much of a road there. It's pretty much dirt. But we will be extending Signal Butte from the new Highway 24, which will be completed, 24 will be completed in August next year. This takes us from Williams Field to Pecos with a 4-lane road, and from Pecos down to Germain with a 2-lane road. And we expect to complete it in about a year, so November next year. So there will be more construction going on in Southeast Mesa.
That's great. And will this be done prior to the SR 24 extension being done, or shortly thereafter?
Shortly thereafter. So the 24 is expected, I think, to complete in August timeframe, August, September, and we will be completing this in November.
Great.
About a year from
But
now.
I can tell you, Mayor, both Signal Butte, south of the 24, and Signal Butte, north and south of 24, both are generating tremendous amount of economic interest. Would that be fair to say, Mr. Thompson? Yes. So even before we build out these roads, we're already seeing tremendous amount of activity and commitments, and some agreements council's already approved. But this corridor of Signal Butte will be significant in Southeast Mesa almost overnight. I think as soon as Beth can build it, it will be there. So this is a significant project, both south of the 24 and north of the 24.
And this is funded, this is a federally funded project, and you may remember that Queen Creek is paying for the section south of the 24 down to Germain for now, and then we reimburse them, I think it's the end of 2030 at that point with the federal fund reimbursements.
Yes, Mr. Thompson.
Beth, do you know if at Signal Butte and 24, is that an overpass or underpass?
That I don't know.
It's
off the top
at
of my
grade
head.
initially,
It
and
is.
then I don't remember if it's scheduled to go
And I
over.
was
Here
just out
comes
there.
RJ. Do you know RJ?
Aha.
There he is. He'll know.
You'll know.
Sorry, RJ.
Mayor, members of the council, Signal Butte will be an at-grade crossing. It'll be the future improvements. This is what's called the interim improvement, from Ellsworth to Ironwood. You're aware that with help from one of our legislators, we were successful in getting funding to complete the bridge at Ellsworth as part of the initial phase, which was not, originally part of this project. So that's great that that bridge is going in, but the bridge over Signal Butte will be done at a later date.
Okay, but
So it will be an overpass.
in the first phase, it's at grade.
It's at grade, you're correct, Mr. Brady.
But eventually, long-term, the
Correct.
plan would be for it to be an overpass, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Well, just so I'm clear, the funding through Prop 400 is for it to be at grade. The question, it's going to be an expensive project to then do that bridge, and so is that part of Prop 400 extension?
Mayor, the future project is part of the Prop 400 extension discussions that are
Okay.
ongoing.
It's outside of the current Prop 400.
That'll be a good selling point then when we're talking, when we're helping the folks in Southeast Mesa know why should you vote for the Prop 400 extension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that, will Mesa be responsible then for the adjacent abutments to go up and over the 24?
Mayor, Councilmember Thompson, likely yes. As we have been working with ADOT on newer projects, they're slowly asking us to take on more maintenance responsibilities than we've had on some older sections of the freeway system in town. So right now with Ellsworth in particular, we're responsible for some maintenance through what we call the interchange. So we haven't gotten that far with ADOT yet, but there will likely be some maintenance responsibilities that come with the future improvements.
We should ask them if they'll turn over the right-of-way to us then.
Well, that's part of the conversation, actually.
Do we get any reimbursements for maintenance?
Mayor, Councilmember Heredia, no.
Just a long list of things they want us to do.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be exciting to see the desert immediately turn into an urban, busy street, won't it? Where there is no road, there'll be a very busy road overnight.
Yes.
And Mayor, well, maybe if we're done with this, one
Yes,
more
please.
item. I think it's significant. Council's been asking a lot of questions about it over the last several months. It would be 5F on the AMI, on the smart meters.
Yes,
The
yes. That's a
contract.
small item, isn't it?
It's just like, kind of gets buried in the middle here, but it's pretty significant, so. Let's have a presentation on that, if you don't mind, Mayor.
Yes. Yeah, I underlined all those numbers, but I meant to ask that question. Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, Mayor and Council. This morning, we do have a quick overview for you of the smart metering project. Obviously, we have come to you in the past and kind of talked about it, and the time has finally arrived for us to actually start working toward it. With me today is Frank McRae, the Energy Resources Director, and Jake West is out of the office today, and so with me is Chris Hassert, the Assistant Director for Water Resources. So we kind of came and talked with you, and you want to say, we call it the Smart Metering Project, and you'll hear us talk about that all the time, and we try to use those terms because it's a little bit easier to understand. But if we do slip and we say AMI, AMI is Advanced Metering Infrastructure. It is what it's called in the industry nationwide. And so you'll hear our vendors use it a lot. We might slip into it and use it a lot as well. But it really means the same thing. And we were talking about that. The reason why is it's actually infrastructure itself. So we talk about smart meters, but it's not just the meter. So there are meters, there's the infrastructure to actually get those signals back through a network to software. The software then has to be integrated and implemented within our system and integrated with all the other software that we already have in the city. So it truly is, that's why it's called advanced metering infrastructure. It's a whole system, a whole solution that we're talking about. This kind of gives you just an overview. Again, this is both equipment, and the point of this is to be resilient and sustainable, to make sure that the network is consistent, that we have duality so that we can get it from two different sources. There's not a single point that we're looking for. So this just kind of outlines overall what we're talking about when we talk about an advanced metering system, or as we call it, a smart metering system. As a reminder for everyone, we do have 3 different utility commodities that are metered in the system, in the city. They are electric, natural gas, and water. Water is within the city, and we have a map here to kind of show you where they are, and a lot of people don't realize exactly where our commodities are. So we do have an electric system. It is just in the downtown area, and that's in the red on the map. The water system is throughout the city Mesa limits. But our gas system, our natural gas system, is actually in 2 different areas. It is a majority of the city, but not all of the city. So some of our residents are serviced by Southwest Gas. So if it's not in there, they're in Southwest Gas area. But we also have a large service area, and it's actually our fastest growing area for natural gas, which is in the Santan area, and we refer to that as the magma area. So when we talk about magma gas, we're talking about the service area located within the Santan area, Santan Valley area. When we're looking at this particular project, we knew this was coming, and our utility folks, as they've been replacing meters or putting new meters in, have been using compatible meters when possible. On the electric side, this project will actually, because they are embedded within the meter, the smart metering component of it, they will be 100% replacement. So everything within the electric area will have a new meter replaced at that premise or that location. For the water, we are expecting 84% of them will need to be, the meter itself will need to be upgraded, while the rest of it will just need to be accommodated with the smart metering sensor that would go onto the meter. And on the gas, because they are the largest growing, we actually only have 26% of our current gas meters that will actually need to be switched or replaced. The rest of them will just need the smart metering sensor added because it's already a compatible meter. So we have been working on this over the years in order to decrease the number of meters we'll actually have to change out versus just upgrade. Overall projects are listed here are some of our project goals, and the team that will be working on setting up performance measures and tracking kind of our before as if processes with how they work after, and we'll be able to report back to those as the system is put in place. We've listed, there's many anticipated benefits, and I just really want to highlight a couple as we've listed them here on this slide. Kind of the main benefits that we're looking at is that customers will have timely access to their utility consumption, and that's a really key factor in this. They'll also have the ability to set up notifications on their account if they so choose. I really relate this to when your online banking. If you have a banking account and you want to know if you have a low balance or a large dollar amount is coming out of your account, you can opt into, you can set that up. There'll be similar types of things that you'll be able to do on your consumption of your utilities once that is up and running. On the other side, from the utility side, the utility will know when the customer has a service interruption at the customer level rather than a full neighborhood or something like that. So we'll know on a customer by customer basis if there's a service interruption that we need to look into. The city is currently negotiating with Census USA to provide our smart metering solution. So we did issue an RFP. We did receive RFP proposals. A committee has gone through those proposals. They have been scored and evaluated over a long process, including vendor demonstrations. We are currently in our final negotiations with the top-rated vendor from that RFP, which is Census USA. There is, at the end of this slide deck that we won't go over, but there is additional information about that vendor at the end if you want additional information about the vendor. One of the requirements of our RFP was that only experienced vendors would submit proposals. They had to have experience at least within 5 years of experience in the smart metering world. We're not the first ones to implement this. We're actually somewhere in the middle toward, the second half, really. This really is being implemented across the country. We also required that the vendor had experience with all of the commodities. There are some that only have water, only have electric, only have gas. We are unique. In fact, we have all three, and so that was a requirement of the vendor proposals. As you see, there are four different four different software systems we currently have within the city that this new software system will need to be integrated with. And they're kind of listed there. It's our customer billing information, our GIS system. We recently added our customer portal just within the last year or so. And we are currently working on an outage management system for the electric commodity. And once that's up and running, we'll also be integrated with the smart metering software. As we go through this project, there will be two phases. The first phase is our initial deployment. So the initial deployment will include 2,200 meters. There's not necessarily 2,200 locations, as some houses may have 2 or 3 meters at that location. But it's 2,200 meters. There are 2 areas in the west part of the town and also areas in the east part of the city. We'll be implementing the software system itself. Phase 1, really the duration of phase 1 is estimated at 1 year. And that really is for the software implementation, integration, and testing. The meter portion itself will probably only take about 2 to 3 months to put in those meters. Phase 2 is when, once we have fully accepted phase 1 and we know that everything is working and running as we expect, we're able to do bills, we're able to get onto the customer portal. At that point, we will accept phase 1 and move into phase 2. That will be citywide deployment. We do not have the order of the citywide deployment at this time. That would be something we would work on while we were working on phase 1. We do have a communication team that we have put together, as communication is a vital part of any project where you're going out and going to people's homes and businesses. So we do have a cross-departmental team that we've put together. Their job is to ensure that the communication happens in a timely manner and in a manner that's for that particular neighborhood. So there will be multiple, whether it's door hangers or social media or those types of things, different formats as well as different languages. We'll be communicating two different things. One, we do want to remind everybody that replacing meters is something that these utilities have done every year since they've been here. So it's not a new thing. We replace meters all the time. We will be communicating that we'll be using a subcontractor, though, to replace those meters and make sure that they understand who they are, what they look like, and that they are supposed to be in the neighborhood. So that's very important for us to communicate. The second one is how to actually access the customer portal if they're not on it already, and what information will now be available to them through this upgrade. As we talk about the numbers that the mayor has underlined in his agenda item, we do want to go over it because they can get confusing, and so I do want to break it into the pieces that I think make the most sense. And so the first thing we want to look at is what is the actual cost of upgrading the meters over this 4-year period. And I don't know that I mentioned that before, but phase 2 is expected to be 3 years to implement all of the meters. That'd be a total of 4 years. So they're broken down here into the different areas, and you can see what the major component is, and that is the meter and endpoint installation. So the actual meter itself and the sensor that attaches to that meter, unless it's electric, where it's all in one. So that is the bulk of the cost. That is about $57.9 million is the total of that actual cost of the project itself. When we talk about water meters, we do have metal lids on our meter boxes right now, and they will need to be replaced with a composite lid that allows for the antenna to be put into the top for communication purposes. So that is an additional cost on the meter side. We would talk about the meter site prep. That is actually the box itself. Some of our boxes are rather old, and they will need to be cleaned out. And anything that might be living in that box would also need to be cleaned out as well. And so anything associated with that box, it is in the ground. Many things can hide and go in there, and dirt gets in there and that type of thing. So there's a little bit more site prep to a water meter replacement than there is to a gas and electric. We also have capacity within the contract for what we are calling one-time as-needed costs. We're not sure, based on doing a full service-wide upgrade, what we'll encounter in the field. And so we want to make sure that we have the capacity to fix anything that we come across as we go through. So we've made some estimates on repairs that might need to be made to the 234,000 meters that we're going to be encountering. The largest one there, 2.5 million, is just the growth of meters. So these are all those meters that are going to go on Signal Butte once you expand it, okay? So those are our growth meters, and that's a contract that we would have in place regardless. So those are not additional costs, but this contract will take the place of our normal meter contracts for all 3 meters. There are ongoing expenses related to the software as we go through this. There are 2 hosted systems that we will be implementing. One is the actual software that receives the data from the meters, and the other one is more of a data analytics software that also sits on top, if you will, and receives that data in a more user-friendly version. Most of our employees in the city will be using the data analytics package. Some of our utilities folks will be using the initial package, which is more of the raw data look at the meters. They do have an ongoing expense each year of about $572,000. This contract is a 5-year term, so when you're looking at that almost $2.9 million, it's for all 5 years of that contract. For cellular service, we are not using cellular service as a primary backhaul or network communication, but there may be some meters that are on the outskirts of our town or our city that will require cellular as a backup. We do require from this contract that all meters can be read by 2 antennas so that we have a backup, a primary and a secondary. Some of the meters we may encounter on the outskirts of town may only be able to receive by 1 antenna. In that case, we would add a cellular component as the backup so that we always maintain 2 reads at all times. As we go forward, what you have in front of you for the resolution on Monday is the approval of the first 5-year term and also the allowance for administrative approval of 2 options to renew at 5 years per option. And so we've given you an estimate here. Term 2, again, would be only consisting of 2 things. One would be the additional maintenance costs on an annual basis for the software packages. And the second one is, again, the continued meter capacity for growth. So we have estimated both the growth rate for all of our meter commodities, as well as the inflation on those prices going out for those years. The software maintenance costs are included in the proposal from Census, so they have already put the Census escalation factor on, so those would be known numbers. As part of this project, we want to bring to your attention some of the expenses that are actually outside of the Census contract. So on Monday, we'll be asking you to consider the resolution allowing the city to enter into a contract with Census, but there are expenses that are outside of Census direct contract. And one is a water meter. So for our 1.5 and 2-inch meters, Census, while they did have a water meter, did not have Water Resources preferred meter. And so we'll be going out to a separate contract for that. That should be coming to the council before the end of the calendar year this year. And those are for the ultrasonic water meters, which do allow a better metering of low volumes. So they work a little bit better. So that will be outside of the Census contract and will just be a meter contract. Census will be responsible for upgrading any of these meters. We'll just be providing the meter rather than having it come through them. And then we have some miscellaneous integration costs and so forth that we'll have to bear on our side for the city as we try to integrate this with the other 5 software vendors that we have. So timeline, we did talk about that this is a 4-year project. And so we have the timeline listed here. If after approval of the resolution to allow us to enter into contract, we will finalize our negotiations with the vendor and then hope to sign the contract within a couple weeks after Monday. This is a 4-year project. Again, the bulk of the work in phase 1 is software and software related. It's really not the meters. The meters will go in, but the bulk of the work is in the software side. After that, years 2 through 4 will simply be a meter upgrade and replacement project. No more software will happen. We'll have a fully functioning system. We'll just be adding more customers on a daily basis. There is on the last, we do have a frequently asked questions, and there is a link on the last slide to that frequently asked questions that is on our website, and that is available through Legistar, even on the PDF, so the public can click on that and go directly to the FAQs for this project if they have additional questions. With that, that's our overview of the project, and we're happy to take questions.
Great, thank you very much. I know I have a few, but council, well, I'll just kick it off if you don't mind.
Yeah.
This is obviously one of the larger CIP projects we've done. I think my math is we're in the $90 million range, and I know it's been spread out over up to 15 years, but still, I like the point that you made that not replacing our meters is not an option. You know, so the alternative is not that we don't replace meters, because we're always replacing meters. So the question is, do we replace our meters with smarter meters that help us achieve some of our other goals? I think this is another great example of how the climate action plan is being implemented in the city, because these meters will help folks with conservation. They'll also provide better service. And so obviously I think this is the right direction. I am a little, can you help me understand a little better the connectivity between, you know, how these meters communicate back to the provider? Because I know that we aspire at some point to try to get fiber to all of our community, to all the houses, all of the businesses, and one of our justifications for that would be it would help us with our providing of utility services and our metering. But it sounds like these all have antennas, and so but they're not all cellular. So those who maybe there's a backup plan there. So if those that are cellular, are they just dialing up, you know, to a modem somewhere, and that's how we're getting the information? And those that are not cellular, are they connected to the internet? And if so, how? Can you just, for someone who's not keen or as sharp on that as I should be, help me understand that?
So the meters themselves have a smart sensor, and the sensor is actually going to use FCC licensed spectrums. So we actually will have licensed portion of the FCC spectrum that is only for the city of Mesa for our meters. And so Census negotiates that, but it's actually our license for that spectrum, and that's how it will communicate with the antennas. We will be using our fiber to do the backhaul. And when we say backhaul, we mean coming from the antennas and coming back to how do we get it into the city and how do we get it into our software? The software itself is a hosted solution, so it will not be on site. So we will be, if you will, dialing into the hosted solution to see the data. And so that's really where it is. The cell will be going through whether it's Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, whatever is the reasonable one where that is. And so it would just be a cell service that would be doing the same thing, getting that data back to the hosted solution.
So the antennas will be connecting to a tower, one of our towers connected to our fiber on one of our. Yeah.
Correct. It'll connect to our fiber. So it'll come to an antenna, then it'll connect to our fiber, and that'll help.
But it's limited to that point where it's not the same as having a fiber line directly to your home. That would be, obviously, that would be ideal. The speeds would be remarkably different. The amount of data, the rich part of the data would be different if we had that. But this will satisfy for data purposes.
And this is for data purposes, so this is not something you could stream a video across.
Yeah.
Right. So this is for data purposes. So it would be, if you think about it, like pinging the data. So as we collect the data, that would come over that network.
The technology will evolve, Mayor, and we're going to, as you know, we've talked about coming to council with a presentation about, what would it look like to provide fiber to the whole community. And then obviously then as this technology evolves, you could see that once we had that, then we could figure that out too.
So once we have fiber to everyone's home, the antenna would become obsolete and would just be going through the fiber?
No, we would still use this system. Each smart metering vendor, if you will, has their own system, and they all use antennas. And so what we have found was, and it did make sense to us as we started looking at it, because we were so proud of all of our fiber that we were boasting to the vendors. And then it turns out that the vendors don't really need our fiber because most cities and municipalities just don't have it. And so the industry has developed without that need. And so they all use some type of an antenna or a cellular service in order to provide this data.
Great. Mr. Luna, thank you.
Thank you, Candace. I've been a real advocate for this, so I think it's pretty cool. And I understand the bandwidth and the FCC requirements in order to send a ping over to an antenna, pick it up and bring. So what happens if something breaks down? Since it's going to be here on work within the city of Mesa, we have a staff member work with, should something happen, like the mayor described, what if something happens and we're not getting the information from the homes? Do we have somebody on staff that's going to take care of all that?
We do. We have staff both within the utility department. We have staff in business services who will actually be doing the initial meter watching the system itself. So we have designated and hired an AMI, Advanced Metering Infrastructure administrator, who will be answering to the billing administrator. And so it's their job to make sure that all of the meters are communicating. The utilities department will also see immediately if a meter stops communicating. We'll be able to see if it's a single meter and there's something going on, or if it's a zone or an area or an antenna. We call them base stations, so it comes to a base station. Again, that's why we have the dual coverage. So if something does go down with one of the antennas, the signals are still being picked up by a different antenna. Okay. And so we're still getting that. We'll just get the alarm that says that the base station is down and that we need to take care of that. But meanwhile, we're still receiving the data while we make that repair. We do have Census, they do have a call center that we will have and service agreement of when there are hours of availability for us to call. They also, because it is a hosted system, they will also know immediately if all of a sudden we're not receiving data from a particular area, zone, or meter.
Okay, so I'm assuming since their software is proprietary software system, but it's compatible with all the other software packages that we have within the city of Mesa. So you've got all that straightened out.
We do, obviously, yes, it is, and that's why the 1 year period, which is really probably about a 10-month period, right? Because we have some testing months where we don't want to touch the system, and that's where the integrations come in. And that's a lot of census folks, as well as each of those software packages that we have. For example, our Banner application, which is our customer service. We would need some people on the Banner side. And then our, wonderful Do-It department, who is phenomenal at doing integrations and moving data around. So it's really the data that moves around, right? So it's not really the software. You don't like the two softwares. They just talk to each other. And so that's what we'll be doing over that first year of phase one. Is all of those integrations.
Will we host the data that we're collecting offsite, or will we have redundant systems in place?
Yeah, Mayor and Councilmember Luna, we're actually going to be doing both.
Okay.
So because it's a hosted system, they are hosting our data, and we do have an agreement for how many years of data will be readily accessible versus archived. So there's two different types. And then we'll also be hosting it locally, so that we can use it for other data analytics that may not be just for utilities. As you know, we're moving toward a data-informed city, and part of that is making sure that we have ready, timely access to our quality data. So we'll be bringing it down into our own database as well, so that we have it both in the analytics project and in the analytics software hosted, but also local, so that we can look at it compared to maybe another department and see if we have trends or correlations.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited about getting this implemented and looking forward to the rollout. And I appreciate the communication plan, because that's going to be key as you begin to roll it out. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. On the interface that residents use currently, is that changing, such as, is the bill payment integrated to the system, or is any of the interface that currently is in place changing for residents?
It is, Mayor and Councilmember Heredia, it is not. So the good thing is, when we started this project, we were looking for a customer portal that would allow folks to go in and look at their consumption. And in the meantime, we implemented what's called SilverBlaze, which is the customer portal we're using today. We evaluated that portal to see if it would be able to handle the smart metering type information, as well as the outage management system. We also looked at it, and it is able to do that. So we actually removed a new customer portal from our RFP, and we are using this current one. So it will be the same integration. If they've already registered, they'll still be registered. What will happen is we will be adding a module to that software that will handle more than just monthly data. So they'll be able to see actually all of the data that we collect, the system collects on their behalf, and they'll be able to get into that. So it'll just be another section, if you will, but it'll be the same portal.
Same thing, it's, I know on the Mesa Now app, there is a utility section. It will be the same with now just more information on their utilities, right?
Yes, we don't expect to change in how you would get to the portal. The change would be just once you're there, you have access to more information. And then you also have access to set up, put in your contact information and set up notifications.
Okay. And then as far as, we're spending all this money, is there any cost savings that we are projecting? I'm not sure if I saw that. I'm assuming the workforce might have to, we have a lot of meter readers that go out there in the community. Is there a plan to maybe train them? And I think the work kind of shifts into a different, more technical side work. But to my first point, is there any projected cost savings that we have? Have you all looked into that piece?
Mayor and Councilmember Heredia, we have. We actually had, when we originally did the feasibility study, they were estimating a 10 to 12-year return on investment for this particular project. When we brought Arcadis on, which is our consultant for the project management of this, we had them review that again, and then they did confirm about a 10 to 12-year return on investment for this project. Some of the things that you'll see and that you mentioned is we hope that with the ability to see what's going on at the meter from remotely, that we won't have to send crews out as often when there's issues about, I have a high bill, I don't know, I don't know what it's from, I think I have a leak, that type of a thing. We won't have to send those crews out. One, we hope that we know that before the end of the month, right? We hope that we know that before there's a high bill, that we can see that through the usage patterns or the alarms that are set for continuous flow, those types of things. So we hope that we won't have to go out to the field as often. So there's savings in fuel, there's savings in, and there's better safety for our employees, that thing. We also have the ability to do an on-demand read. So when people are moving in and out, the way we do it now, we have to send somebody out to actually read the meters, give them a final read so they can have their final bill because they're moving out. We'll be able to do that remotely. So again, that's less time in the field doing that as well. Also, with the meters, we'll know when meters start to read inaccurately, it is in the benefit of the customer. And so when meters start to slow their reads as they age, we'll be able to tell that earlier rather than replace them in a whole neighborhood because they've aged out. So we'll be able to replace meters as needed rather than just on age. We'll actually be able to tell that a meter has met specific metrics that say that it should be changed in the future. So that will save on changing a meter that maybe doesn't need to be changed or delaying changing a meter that is reading slow.
And Councilor, it'll take some time, obviously, for this installation. So with the meter readers and the turnover, we'll be able to adjust to that. And certainly, as Scott just mentioned, we have a lot of open positions, so we'd certainly be able to find opportunities for those individuals.
Yes, Chris has been talking to them ever since the beginning of the project. We wanted to make sure that they knew that, their jobs were secure. And we do have it is one of our higher turnover areas, is in the meter reading area. And so again, we'll still need meter readers for the next 4 years. We'll just be slowly phasing them out. And we will need more meter technicians.
Perfect. All right.
As well.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Duff, anything that you'd like to add or any additional questions you have on this or anything else on the agenda?
I'm very excited about this metering project, and I think it's a great way to, it fits nicely into our climate action plan and serving our customers so they can conserve better. And looking back, even over this last summer and the electric grid within the downtown area, because the electric department, there were supply issues and there was conservation asked of our residents that they conserve in order to have those supplies available to everyone. And I know being able to know exactly where I'm consuming my electric allows me to be a better customer and for us to just be wiser and work better on our conservation for many reasons. Thank you. I do have a couple of questions. One is on a 5G. It's a small item, but it's on a grant that we're receiving for a citizen broadband radio service project. And I don't know, I'm jumping into this not knowing if we're finished with AMI, but I'll just finish my comment and then you can integrate it as needed. But the Citizen Broadband Radio Service Project, that grant is providing broadband service in underserved areas of the city to provide residents access to online police department services. So I just wanted to understand a little bit more about what that looks like and what that means. And the last one is just commenting on 5H and the filling the Cannon Beach, the artificial lake, and that we're using affluent water credits with the city, and I think that's great. And I believe that is, again, another item that we're doing and being responsible with our resources. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think we were done with, I'm sorry, Council, any additional questions on the metering agenda item? Seeing none, Vice Mayor, do you want additional information on 5G or 5H or just wanted to make those comments?
So, yeah, and Mayor, real quickly, Vice Mayor Duff, the item on the Citizen Cellular, that's been removed from the agenda. So you may have just an older version right now. So that item is no longer on the agenda. So we're having to go back and work with staff because we have several initiatives that are talking about broadband and internet for the entire city. So we're making sure that these all fit together. So that one's been removed from the agenda for now. But we could speak to do you want someone to speak to the Cannon Beach discussion on, would you like to hear more information on that?
I think just a quick overview so that everybody's aware of how that lake is being filled. I think as it's being filled, there's going to be people coming forward and asking a lot of questions about it. So it's just more informative. It's not really a question other than just to be informative to our citizens.
No, it's a great question. So we'll answer that.
Thank you. So, yeah, some people have questioned the wisdom of a large water feature. So, but what's our response to that, gentlemen?
So, good morning, Mayor, Councilmember Duff, other members of the council. Bill Table with the City Attorney's Office. So, both the state and the city have regulations that deal with filling large bodies of water. The principal sort of issue is that today, if you want to build a large body of water, in this case a wave pool, you have to use certain supplies of water. This was adopted, I think, back in the late 80s as a response to certain real estate development that was incorporating large water features. So in this particular case, the city has a large supply of long-term storage credits, and long-term storage credits retain the characterization of the stored water. So in this case, we have long-term storage credits that are based on effluent recovered supplies. Effluent is one of the sources that you can use today to fill a large body of water, in this case, the pool. So what Cannon Beach has done is they have gone on the market and secured existing long-term storage credits that are based on stored CAP supplies. And we're just trading. We're going to trade those CAP long-term storage credits for some effluent credits that will then allow Cannon Beach to fill the pool. And they will be doing that using a local well that they have arranged to have access to, I believe, with RWCD. Also, as part of the resolution item, the city is issuing a permit that will allow Cannon Beach to, fill their water feature. Brian?
Right, and I think just to add to what Bill said, and again, I'm Brian Draper, City of Mesa Water Resources Advisor. What's unique to this project is the CAP credits that they're exchanging with us and the effluent credits we're giving them back were all generated in this location. So they're credits that are within the RWCD district. And so as they recover these credits, they're not necessarily depleting our aquifer. That's water that we had already stored in there, and it's CAP water that was already stored as well. So we're just swapping, if you want to call the flavor, the characteristic of the water. So everyone's made whole. Now the perimeter facilities, the hotel, the restaurants, other businesses and shops, we will be serving them from our service area, but that's not a huge demand on the system. So this project really does not put a large impact on our supplies. So it is a kind of an exciting project. I know the community as well as Councilmember Thompson are kind of excited to see this come. And I think we've worked well with this project to come up with a solution.
And it does back up to the RWCD canal, so that's convenient. So.
Yeah, and I think it's good to point out that this uses less water than its current use with agriculture or rooftops or industrial. This is all of those options. This is the least amount of water.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Any additional comments on that or other agenda items, Council? All right. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda. Item 2 is to acknowledge receipts of various minutes. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Mr. Luna, seconded by Mr. Thompson. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Are there any opposed? Thank you. That passes unanimously. Next item on our agenda is current event and conferences attended. Council members, have anything you'd like to share with us? Mrs. Spilsbury.
Okay, last week I was able to go do a tour of Save the Family. I'm kind of on a journey of discovering all the nonprofits in the city, and there's just really great things happening. Save the Family is helping nearly 700 families a year, and all the programs are aligned to help families address poverty, overcome homelessness, and achieve self-sufficiency. So I really enjoyed that tour. Yesterday was the Hispanic Heritage Lunch for the City of Mesa employees. I heard that there was 1,200 employees that attended, and it looked like that. It was so fun. I heard that Councilmember Luna was dancing before I got there. I'm sad I missed it.
Free entertainment.
It's on a video? Good.
Free entertainment.
Yeah. So that was really, really fun. So I want to thank all the people who put that on. And I also yesterday was, my assistant Melissa and I visited Community Court. It was so cool. I've been hearing about it for, a few years, and so getting to actually go and witness it in person. There was a woman that graduated while we were there. That was just beautiful. And also several people that entered the program for the first time, and several people who were in the middle of working on their goals and achievements. And so that was just a really neat experience. I want to thank Judge Tats for letting us come and showing us how that worked. So, and then the last thing I wanted to mention is that the Mesa LDS Temple, the public tours open this Saturday. They're available for 5 weeks. Anyone and everyone is welcome to go and enter and walk through that beautiful building that was originally built in 1927. So you can go to mesatemple.org and you can click on the tab that says Open House and get free tickets. A lot of the tickets are already taken, but there's also a standby line in case you need to go at a time and there's not a ticket available. You might have to stand in line, but there are plenty of ways to be able to go do that. So I think that's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Luna.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed you. I would have danced with you. It was a lot of fun. So I want to thank Mr. Brady and MHN for hosting that wonderful event. It was well attended and it was a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll do it again next year. So we'll hope for the best. I moderated a web forum on COVID-19 vaccine access with the National League of Cities and the National Alliance for Hispanic Health. It was a great forum that I was able to participate in as well. I had bilingual reading time at the Red Mountain Branch Library where I had the opportunity to read to preschoolers, and I've always liked reading to children, so that was a lot of fun. I also had opportunity along with you, Councilmember Spilberry. We toured the ASU building, and it's really cool. And there are 5 sound stages, which is incredible. So I can hardly wait till it's totally completed. It's state of the art, and it's a total amazing building. That's going to be really exciting. Also wanted to remind people about Celebrate Mesa this weekend. I'm wearing my orange shirt, so you will see me around wearing my orange shirt. It starts, I think, at 5 p.m., and it's located at the Red Mountain Soccer Complex. It starts at 5, ends at 9 o'clock. There'll be lots of food, fun, and games for our whole family. Also posted a video with my assistant, Antonia, and thank you for Channel 11 and Ana Pereira for producing these wonderful videos. We are going to be showing a video on Aida Amado, who is a nurse practitioner at Banner MD Anderson, and it'll be on my Facebook page as well, and it'll run on Channel 11. And I did want to acknowledge that Visit Mesa just produced a wonderful video on celebrating Falcon Field's 8th anniversary, featuring the British Flying School's history. I'll be sharing that on my Facebook page as well as my webpage. So that's a real exciting thing that's going to be, we're going to be running as well. And also, they are going to be launching a new software program. Let me see if I can find it really quick, which is really exciting. They're going to be launching IRA. It's a guided visual interpretation service for visitors and residents beginning October 15th. That's for the National Blind Americans Equality Day. It's really exciting that Visit Mesa is working to continue to promote the city of Mesa using digital technology to provide services for visitors coming into the area. So they're going to be launching that, I believe, tomorrow. So stay tuned, visit Mesa's website to get more information. And I do want to thank Mark Garcia for all his work to promote the Southeast Valley, particularly the city of Mesa. So that's it for me right now.
Thank you. Mr. Redia.
Yeah, real quick, just wanted to ask West Mesa residents or folks that work there, we have a survey up for the new Fiesta Buzz that we're calling. It's a neighborhood connector, and we want the input from the public on the different routes that we're thinking of having the buzz go through the neighborhoods and Dobson. And so if you live or work in around West Mesa, the Dobson Road area, north of the 60, go to our Mesa AZ Fiesta Buzz survey. You can also locate it at our social media pages. So look forward to hearing the public's input on those routes. So
Thank you. Other comments? I was just looking at this is one of those weeks where it seems like everything was happening all at the same time. So I know how busy the council's been. I was just in panic writing down some things from the last several days. But a week ago, it was a lot of fun to participate in an event at the Neighborhood Comedy Theater, where they were kind enough to invite me to come and share some stories, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Thank you, Mr. Luna, for being there. But it just reminded me of what a great asset that is in our downtown, and what a lot of fun that was. I encourage everybody to, if you haven't tried that yet, the Neighborhood Comedy Theater on Main Street's a great place to spend an evening.
You should use some of your comedy skills in council more often.
After you're done with mayor, you could do that.
Well, it was a good evening because I was not responsible for the comedy. I was the straight man. I went up and told the stories, and then people made them funny later. But it was a lot of fun. Also, last week, I was honored to attend a lunch with many of you to honor from the Arizona Manufacturers Association, where Dexcom received the award for the Manufacturer of the Year. And I thought that was extremely well-deserved. We all know that the tremendous growth that Dexcom has experienced in our city, now well over 1,000 employees in multiple locations. And it's just such a wonderful product that really saves people's lives and improves the quality of their lives so dramatically. Dexcom was a great partner in the drive-through vaccination program that we had just a few months ago. So really great community partners with a real life-saving product, and for so many reasons was so deserving of that award. Yesterday I had an interesting experience. I went for a flight in a B-17 at Falcon Field Airport. For the Commemorative Air Force that Mr. Luna knows so well, is a wonderful facility to visit, but during the cooler months they bring out these historic airplanes from other parts of the country, and so we recorded a podcast on board the B-17, and look forward to sharing that with you in the near future. Also, was it yesterday we did the chamber bus tour?
Yes.
Mr. Luna and I just welcomed, for the last couple of weeks, the Mesa Chamber of Commerce has sponsored bus tours. The first one was in Southeast Mesa that Mr. Thompson helped with, and then kind of the rest of the story, I think they called it yesterday, touring a lot of the economic development sites, and just kind of telling the story of all the exciting things that are going on the economic development level in the city, and appreciate the chamber doing that. Also yesterday, I participated or just watched as the Visit Mesa folks launched a new program called ARIA. Yeah. This is to assist those who are visually impaired. It's a wonderful program. I appreciate Visit Mesa being good at helping us do outreach to the autistic community, and the sunflower lanyards that they promote to help people with disabilities to get help as they visit or live in our community, and similar. This is to that program is this ARIA launch to a program that assists people who are visually impaired. It's a resource for them to call in through an app and get help negotiating the challenges in our city. And just want to congratulate Visit Mesa for another successful launch of a program that makes our community more welcoming to everyone. Anything else you'd like to share with this council? Mr. Brady, what does our schedule of future meetings look like?
Thank you, Mayor. I think we've covered a few of them, but there is this Saturday, the Mesa Grande Cultural Park seasonal reopening. This is always an interesting tour. So it'll be this Saturday it goes from 10 a.m. to noon. So that's at Date and 10th Street. So it's kind of an interesting ancient history of Mesa. And we can see where Alex Winter used to ride his bike up and down that hill, but otherwise there's some other history to be known also. It's a great facility that is just open during the cooler parts of the season. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you. If there's nothing else, our last item is to convene an executive session regarding the Lane lawsuit. Is there a motion to convene an executive session? Thank you, Mr. Luna and Mr. Thompson. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We will convene an executive session.